Welcome to Cultaholic Island Embassy. Obviously, the world is in lockdown at the moment, but we still welcome visitors to Cultaholic Island, and we are welcoming a visitor from the island just over the way. Here we have Ben Potter from off of TripleJump.
Excellent. Hello.
Welcome to the island, sir. How do we find you today?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you. I'd like to apologise for my headwear. You can't actually see it, Tom, because we couldn't get my camera to work on Skype, but I'm wearing a hat to sort of disguise my dishevelled quarantine hair.
We've all got quarantine hair now, mate. It's fine. What was the when was the last time you had a haircut?
Oh, God. Probably, I want to say the end of February. And I have my hair cut quite short, so...
So now you're feeling it, right?
It doesn't bode well. Yeah, it doesn't do very well over long periods of time.
Does your hair grow out or down?
What a question.
I don't
even know what that means.
Well, because I find that with mine, like if mine grew down, it would be all right. But it's more the fact that it grows out. So there, I just kind of get these fluffy bits at the side, which are thankfully okay today. But they're coming. They're coming. I can feel them.
Okay. Well, usually I get like a. This is the really fun stuff here. I get like a number 2 on the back and sides, so I get it cut really short. So when my hair grows, it's sort of my hair gets curly, as you can see here at the front. My hair when I was a little babby was curly like a sheep, and it's sort of straightened out over time. But when it gets long, it does get curly at the front. So yeah, it's a bit. It kind of just does whatever it wants, really.
Have you ever been brave enough to get a number 1?
No. I was honestly a little bit hesitant about getting a number 2, but my very nice Geordie barber / life coach, who gives me a lot of life advice whenever I go in there, convinced me that it was a good idea. And I liked it, so I stuck with it. And now every time I go in, he asks me, would you like the regular? And he has forgotten what he suggested initially, so I still have to say it was a number 2. He was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I'm nearly there with him, but not quite.
Does the barber know what you do for a living? Because I ask this because I always find it's very difficult to explain.
Yeah.
Sort of the jobs that we do.
It's the same as trying to explain it to a grandparent or something like that. I vaguely at times said I work in media online down near the quayside or something, and I had him before I moved away to work at Yogscast for a year. And I came back and then went back to him, and he was like, "Oh, are you all right?" I was like, "Yeah, it's been a year." And he's like, "Has it? Has it been a year?" I'm like, yeah. I'm now working at a different place. Like, So I don't think he really cares, but I tried to explain anyway.
Ben, we are sending you on an island. Not really, because everything's shut. But metaphorically, we are sending you onto an island, and we're going to burn for you a DVD featuring 3 of your favourite wrestling matches. Now, people who may have come over here from TripleJump know that you are a bit of a wrestling fan, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. I am, yes. Very much
When did you become a wrestling fan?
Well, it's sort of a long and winding story, and that's kind of reflected in my choices of wrestling matches, because a couple of them aren't what you would necessarily call 5-star matches, but they are significant to me because they have strong nostalgic importance. Like they represent a point in my life where I was like, oh yeah, wrestling, oh yeah. So they may some of them are a bit obscure, but I didn't have Sky and I didn't have the know-how about how to watch wrestling, but I was very much aware of it. In the late 90s, and people at school used to wear Stone Cold shirts and rock shirts and stuff like that. But then it was really the early sort of 2000s, the Ruthless Aggression era, when I got properly into it because my cousins watched it and they had DVDs and they had the games, and I would watch when I went to friends' houses who had Sky, would like stay up and watch it when it was on. And then I dropped off again, and then it wasn't until about 2011, 2012 until I properly full-time started watching wrestling and going to WWE live events in the UK, and then just kind of got obsessed, really. But it's been a long journey to get there, though.
What do you think the appeal is for you for wrestling?
I don't know. It's because it's really silly, isn't it? But it's
Yes.
There's something very powerful about it. When it feels real, it's incredible. And as I just said to you before we started recording, I watched the Desert Island Graps you did with Jack, and he had a similar reaction to me, and I think a lot of other people, to CM Punk, and how he sort of broke that fourth wall in a way that actually made wrestling seem really cool and edgy again. And I think it was that hooked me. And then as I learned more about wrestling and how it worked and how it was put together, I just sort of gained a respect for the art form, and really, listening to podcasts and Colt Cabana and all that kind of stuff. I just sort of, it became something of an obsession, just watching videos and reading Wikipedia articles and stuff like that. And it was all just really interesting. And I'm still not entirely sure why that is.
I think you summed it up nicely at the beginning. It's the silliness of it. Wrestling is at its best when it's inherently nonsense. Always believe that.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a look at some of your favourites, and you've really set the bar quite nicely for this. I'm intrigued. Your first match for your DVD, Ben, what are we having?
Okay, this is a weird one. This is a match from No Way Out, Texas, In Your House 1998.
Oh!
And it's Cactus Jack, Chainsaw Charlie, Owen Hart, and Stone Cold Steve Austin versus the New Age Outlaws, Savio Vega, and Triple H with China.
This is a quality choice.
Yeah, so you'll have to tell me if this is a match of some renown, because it took intensive Googling to find out what it was.
Right.
Because I had a VHS that I bought from a charity shop with this match on it. And it turns out it was No Way Out, Texas, or it says No Way Out of Texas, I think it may be what it was called, In Your House 1998. And I watched it front to back several times, and I remember it had Kane on the cover, which is what helped me identify what it was in the end when I was trying to work out what it was from. But I distinctly remember Mark Miro falling out with Sable. I remember Kane being really frightening and thinking, oh my God, what is that Vader man? He's massive. And I also remember Chainsaw Charlie being slammed on top of some chairs, which I just thought was the most unbelievable thing I'd ever seen. Like how is he even walking? That's ridiculous. What a silly thing to put yourself through. Incredible.
That main event is of renown because it's sort of the last stop on the road to the beginning of the Attitude Era, essentially. This is the last service station of the New Generation era, essentially. Mm-hmm. So there is some significance to it. And also, there is significance in this, in that it includes possibly the worst reveal of a mystery partner in history.
Right.
Because Savio Vega was a replacement for Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels meant to be in that match, but Shawn Michaels' back was absolutely paggered after the Royal Rumble in January, so they kept him out of the ring until WrestleMania so he could do the thing with Steve Austin. But they had to get through this kind of 8-man tag team match, so they said, oh, there's going to be a mystery tag team partner, and they hyped it as if it was going to be a big deal. So when Savio Vega came out, there was a huge round of apathy that bounced around the room, and but then it still went on to be a really solid 8-man tag in my recollection, and clearly in yours as well.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right there. I certainly heard the reaction of the crowd to Savio Vega coming out. I did think it was a bit of a strange choice. When I was skipping through, the WWE Network's amazing, isn't it? When I was skipping through the matches to get to the one I wanted, there were segments titled Triple H teases the mystery partner. And then, nothing against Savio Vega, of course, but that's clearly what the crowd weren't expecting. But it is interesting to hear that is, as you say, the last stop on the way to the Attitude Era, because Triple H was introduced as Triple H Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the winner of the 1997 King of the Ring, which it's strange, in hindsight, because you always think of Triple H as just Triple H. But it seems like, it's just a strange time. Just a strange time when this pay-per-view took place. So
you'd obviously become a wrestling fan again when you found this VHS. How long would you have been into your wrestling fandom when you discovered it?
This might have been the first proper exposure I had, because wrestling was something that was as I said, I never really had access to just at home. And my parents didn't dislike it or sort of forbid me from watching it. But I just didn't. I had no avenue to consume wrestling in any way that I was aware of. And as I said, people at school liked watching wrestling and would talk about it. And, you know, there was that boy who brought in his pretend title belt. You know, everyone had one of those in their school. And there was something about it, clearly. Maybe it was just because I didn't really know what it was. And I didn't know how real it was or anything like that made it so alluring. I did actually ask for a wrestling bedspread for Christmas once in the 90s, and weirdly I didn't get it. And I think it was just because my parents just thought, wow, he doesn't know. I'd never watched wrestling, but I wanted a wrestling bedspread, so it already had a power over me, even though I hadn't really seen any wrestling. So it was really this VHS that gave me the opportunity to properly sit down and watch like these just larger than life people do their thing.
With that VHS, so it was from a charity shop. What else did you buy from the charity shop that day?
That day, I mean,
or in general?
Or just in general.
Is it one you regularly frequent? Because it's always nice to have one that you know is always stocked up with stuff that you like.
Oh, you gotta love an Oxfam, haven't you, Tom?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Love an Oxfam. I didn't buy too much from charity. I bought a lot of ties from charity shops, actually. When I was in sixth form, we were allowed to wear what we wanted, but on, I think that it was like Mondays or Fridays, we had to come in dressed up in shirts and ties and stuff. And I used to just buy the most ridiculous ties I could find from charity shops. Like I had one with Taz on it, and I think I had a Family Guy tie as well that I wore for school picture day, which is just, it's kind of upsetting to look back on, really. But I mainly bought ties from charity shops. I do remember one point I went into that Oxfam, and there was a boxed Game Boy Color in it for $5, and I didn't buy it. And then I went home and I thought about it. Excuse me, I'm getting choked up. I went home and thought about it, and then I went back the next day, and it was gone.
Oh no, mate!
And it was devastated.
Oh,
Absolutely
mate.
Inconsolable.
That does bring us nicely to the other love in your life, which is video games. When did video games become an influence to you, sir?
So my aunt had an original Game Boy, the big chunky grey one, in the early 90s, and she had various games for it, and I seem to remember borrowing that a lot and playing on that a lot. But her son, my cousin, didn't live that far away from where me and my family lived, only like a couple of villages away, and he had all sorts of consoles in the 90s. He had the Nintendo 64, he had a Mega Drive, and then he ended up getting the PS1, and obviously then the PS2, way before I got them. And I used to go over to his quite a lot and play games at his house and watch him play games. And I then ended up getting a Game Boy Color, and I have a lot of Game Boy Colors now. I've sort of amassed something of a collection of them. But I got a copy of Pokemon Blue and Game Boy Color, and that was my first thing that I had, and that kickstarted just an obsession with games. Really, it's just a pastime and a passion as well. And
Pokemon Blue. Just the important question regarding that is which Pokemon did you pick first?
Squirtle.
Okay, noted. That'll divide the audience into three.
It was on the cover. So easy choice for me.
From there, obviously you go on to do many more things in the realm of video gaming. But growing up, Christmas is always an interesting time for getting video games and such. Was there ever a Christmas where you got a particular video game that blew your mind?
Well, the Game Boy in Pokemon Blue was a Christmas present, and I remember getting that, and I remember playing that. But I think perhaps a funnier Christmas memory, because from that point on, I bought everything gaming related myself. I saved up and I earned money and I bought the things that I had for myself. But one Christmas memory I have is when I got my PS1, which was several years after it came out, because my parents were not particularly well off, and despite how I sound, right, which is a fun misconception a lot of people have on the internet, it's just where I'm from. But we got a PS1, I think, from some sort of online dodgy marketplace, and it arrived in like a cardboard box, all parcel taped up, and it was from Father Christmas, of course. And I opened it up, and it had games in it like GTA and I think Resident Evil and stuff like that. And I remember my dad just sort of grabbing them, and going, "Oh no, I think Father Christmas might have been a bit confused. We'll just take these out of here, so you can't play them. What we'll do, I think there was a copy of Spyro in there, which was perfect. But then I remember after that going to Electronics Boutique and trading them all in, and in a bargain bin there was a copy of Final Fantasy VII, which is my favourite game ever. And my mum picked it up, and it was probably because it was quite thick, because it has 3 discs in it, that it looked like good value. But she showed it to me and said, "Oh, this looks pretty good. Why don't you get this?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I got that, and it ended up being one of the best games I've ever played. But
it's horrifying to think that game would be in a bargain bin.
Yeah, right. I can't remember. I don't know when it must have been then for it to have reduced in price so much that it was in the bargain bin there. But it was that all came because Father Christmas got a bit confused with the games that came with the PS1 that he built, for me.
Obviously,
as he does.
This started a bit of a thing, an obsession with you and the PlayStation as well. If I said to you PlayStation Radio, what could you tell me about that?
PlayStation Radio UK was originally called PlayStation Chat, which you'll see is reflected in my Skype handle, which I still have. That was started by myself and a complete stranger I'd never met at that point, called Simon, who is now counted as a very old friend of mine. But we were just both 2 young lads who were really passionate about not only PlayStation, but about games journalism and the games industry, and wanted to just do something. We were too young to work in it, really. So we just started this podcast where we talked about games, and I do it far less frequently now just because I've managed to somehow turn it into a career. But at the time, it was a weekly podcast, and it started it in 2009. So it's been over a decade now since I started doing that. And we changed the name to PlayStation Radio at some point along the way. I think when I started university and I got a better understanding of how, because I went to university to do radio production. Of course, you know a lot about radio yourself. But it was there where I picked up a lot of skills in terms of editing and learning how a radio show should be structured. So we decided to rebrand and give it another go. And we interviewed a load of quite big voice actors, Nolan North and Troy Baker and Richard McGonigal and a few others as well. Attended, somehow managed to worm our way into going to press events and stuff as just teenagers. And we just stood out like a sore thumb because we shouldn't have been there. But
you did it though. That's amazing though.
Yeah. It was something. When I look back, I was like, God, I had some balls to just email some PR companies, didn't I, and just sort of demand stuff. This was before the sort of proper rise of gaming YouTube as well, where now everyone who has a YouTube channel asks for press accreditation, no matter how big it is. But back then, because we had a website, we sort of looked legit, so we could go and do this stuff, and it ended up being great practice and great experience for ultimately what I then went on to do. But certainly to begin with, it was just being a bit of a snarky arse about games on the internet in my spare time outside of school.
But you were, if you were podcasting in 2009, that's kind of still very ahead of the curve when it comes to podcasting, because now, like, everybody podcasts everywhere, anywhere. But you were kind of on the ground floor a little bit with that. It's like, where would the idea have come from to launch into podcasting?
I I listened to a lot of podcasts then anyway, and I liked the idea of doing one myself because I liked games and I liked talking about games, and I think at that point I was doing hospital radio as well in my spare time, volunteering there, and I was just searching around, and I came just for PlayStation podcasts, I think, because as you said, it was quite early days for podcasts in general, and there weren't many PlayStation specific podcasts, and I found one that was just called PlayStation Trophies, and it was Simon, and it was just a very, very timid, nervous sounding young man saying, "This is the first episode. If anyone wants to, I don't know, join me." And I still have the original recording because it's kind of it's really embarrassing actually for him. And so I just sent him an email, and then a few weeks later we got set up and just started going from there.
As you say, he's still a close friend of yours. What's Simon doing now?
Simon works for I can't remember the specific company, but he works making videos about the armed forces and various other things. He does a lot of contractual work with the armed forces, making videos going all across the world, covering various topics and making documentaries, things like that. So he's managed to parlay probably the skills that we both cultivated doing this stupid PlayStation podcast in a completely different field, but using the same principles that we both sort of learned together.
Now, you've since you had such success with Simon doing the podcast and things like that, and a lot of people, of course, when you say Ben and Simon, it doesn't roll off the tongue. Ben and Peter, however, that feels a bit more normal. How did you come to meet Peter?
Well, I met Peter Austin at WhatCulture, and I was up for my 1-week trial. I think I'd already been offered a full-time job, and I'd been freelancing for maybe a couple of months. And I came up for a 1-week trial, and I was just put on a gaming edit. And I didn't actually interact with Peter very much at all there, but that's where I first met him. And I just I showed up, and was just, I mean, that place was chaos. I imagine it's probably slightly better now, but it was certainly just madness then. And nobody knew I was arriving or meant to be there. And the same thing rang true for when I actually started full time. I'd moved the length of the country all the way up from London to Newcastle, and I came in on my first day, and nobody knew that I was meant to be there. And I asked, and I went up to Peter's desk because I remembered him from the trial, and he was extremely helpful, and he helped sort me out with a desk and a computer. And I just started doing little bits and pieces, and he and his now fiance Amy, they really took care of me when I first moved up here because I didn't know anyone, and everyone was really lovely and really friendly. But Peter and Amy sort of went above and beyond, and they invited me over, and we hung out a lot, and they would come over and hang out with me, and it was really nice. They were just really lovely people, and from there. Scott, Peter, and I, who was sort of the only people working on the gaming channel at that point, and my attention was drawn in several directions because I was mainly doing stuff on the main WhatCulture channel with film and TV and stuff. But we all wanted to do more than just lists on the gaming channel, and we sort of started brainstorming ideas, and it was from there that Peter and I started doing Worst Games Ever and started appearing in more videos sort of as a duo.
So were you very much left to your own devices when it came to WhatCulture gaming?
Yes. Yeah, when it came to WhatCulture gaming, yes. I am frustrated in hindsight about a lot of stuff, but mainly that my attention was so divided because I was sort of the boss's everyman. In that I would be put on anything that I was needed to be put on, and that was a compliment in a way because he felt that I could just fit in everywhere and just sort of adapt. I did stuff occasionally on the wrestling channel, and I did the vast majority of my voiceovers on the main channel. Towards the end, I did almost nothing on the gaming channel at all. I just didn't have time to do anything. But it was mainly there was a real sense that, and I know that this is different now, but when we were there was a real sense that nobody cared about the gaming channel in management. Nobody cared. Just let them do their own thing. And whenever it came down to sort of a choice of, can we do this, please? It was, how much time is that going to take? Because we'd rather you be doing this on another channel. And in spite of all of that, the gaming channel now is doing incredibly well. And that is a testament to the hard work of the people who are still there. But certainly when I was there, they didn't really care about the gaming channel. They didn't care. It was Peter's hard work and Scott's hard work and Jules's hard work and my occasional hard work when I could help out that helped establish it. But that was in spite of being told to do other things that were deemed more important.
I think it says a lot to your ability in an office like that, the fact that you were pulled in so many different ways. I know it's frustrating. I can tell even via the social distancing how frustrated you were by all that. But it says it's a testament to your talent, the fact that you're pulled in so many different directions.
Thank you, man.
So I'd see it as a compliment. I'm pretty sure the first time I heard you was doing voiceovers on a wrestling video, and my first thought was, and you probably get this a fair bit, this guy sounds like Matt Berry.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, it was so difficult, and I'm sure you've gone through exactly the same thing coming into Cultaholic. But when I arrived at WhatCulture, it was the land of Adam Blompier and Adam Pacitti and Jack the Jobber and King Ross and Sam the Shredditor, and so on. It was a land of big personalities that were already established, and I was coming in there with absolutely no fanfare whatsoever, and I needed something. You need something. Not, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but you need something to sort of make yourself stand out. Like, oh, it's that guy. It's the guy who does that. And I could quite easily slip into a Matt Berry style voice while doing voiceover. And I often did when I was at WhatCulture, because that was just a thing that was easy for me to do. And it was like, well, that's a distinctive voice. That kind of stands out a little bit. I also had a couple of catchphrases I'm not particularly proud of, but that's it's done now. You just need something. You just need something to hold on to, really.
It sounds like you went through a similar mental war that I went through when I started, which is you feel like it feels like they're adding another member to the Beatles. Right.
Yes.
And that was the feel. Like when I walked into Cultaholic, I was like, I kind of feel like the sort of the fifth Beatle here. Like, is this going to be a thing? Like, do I need a backup for when this all blows over? But it's not interesting to see that even at WhatCulture you felt, and it's not in a derogatory way to anybody, because it's just they're an established gang of lads and they've all gone on to do great things, and they continue to do so, and they continue to employ us, so it's fine. Yeah. But it is that feeling of when you walk into a room and there's already big established characters, you want to make an impact. I want to talk more about yourself and Peter in a minute, but we are here to put wrestling matches onto an arbitrary DVD to send you on an island with. So we should return to that, really.
Okay.
So your second match for your DVD, Ben Potter, what will it be?
My second match, again, this is sort of my meandering journey into watching wrestling full time. I say full time, as more of a commitment rather than a thing that I'm aware of, that I'm interested in but haven't really given much thought to. This one harks back to when I would visit my cousins who watched wrestling and had wrestling games, and sort of sparked my love for the ruthless aggression era, especially in terms of the video games that I still play now. And it's from No Way Out 2004, and it's Brock Lesnar versus Eddie Guerrero for the WWE Championship.
Amazing. Good, strong choice. I mean, why that one in particular, though?
It was on, I believe, an Eddie Guerrero DVD that they had, and I used to watch that quite a lot when I went over there. But I think it was mainly because of Brock Lesnar. And that was one of the, I mean, I'm going to sound a bit silly here, but I think my reaction to seeing Brock Lesnar for the first time, I think was a lot of people's reactions to seeing Hulk Hogan for the first time. Like, this man should not physically be able to exist, right? How on earth does someone look like that, full stop, and then move like that? And then I watched this match back last night because I haven't seen it for a long time. And it is just so amazing to see Brock Lesnar who cares. Brock Lesnar with a varied moveset and arsenal, who's doing promos and talking on the microphone and actively looking like he's invested, and he's selling moves, and he's like flip-flopping all over the place. It's incredible. The guy was amazing. And there will always be a part of me, because, you know, the man is very different from the character. I think we can all agree. But there will always be a part of me that will be a big Brock Lesnar fan. I was secretly a little bit thrilled when he beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, because I thought, if someone's going to do it, that feels like it makes sense to me. But that match in particular, you know, I'd loved Eddie Guerrero. I thought he was just amazing, and he was phenomenal in that match. And Brock Lesnar was amazing in that match, and it was just so back and forth. And it didn't look like he was going to do it, and then he did. You know, Eddie ate the canvas a couple of times trying to do frog splashes, and it was just a fantastic match. But it was mainly for me the nostalgic point that sticks out, that I remember going to my cousins and watching that match and thinking, wow, okay, this is, for me, a bit of a step up of seeing Chainsaw Charlie get powerbombed through some chairs. This is really good. This is a really good match. And when Brock Lesnar jumps up on the ropes, somehow he makes fireworks come out of them, and that's amazing. How does he do that? But it was incredible. That was sort of, I picked this match mainly not only because of the DVD, but because of the whole era that it represents for me. You know, the video game, Here Comes the Pain, was a PS2 game that I love, and I'm playing it currently on stream. But I played it to death, so I got to know that entire roster of wrestlers really well, and just that whole period of TV. You know, I love the network documentary series that has sadly sort of stalled halfway through, and they're going to finish it later on, about the Ruthless Aggression era. I think it's fascinating. I just love that whole period of wrestling. For me, it's my Attitude Era. I thought it was phenomenal. You know, there's bad points in it, of course, but that whole roster of characters I just find so compelling.
You mentioned earlier on in your first pick that wrestling is silly, but also wrestling has, you know, wrestling has this ability to grab you. I'm paraphrasing a bit, but like, so the story of Eddie Guerrero facing Brock Lesnar, they tell the story and they own the fact that Eddie Guerrero had demons and had and drug issues, and a part of that was because they wanted to own it rather than it come out that their WWE champion has had those kind of demons. But also it adds to the story as this guy who's been to the very bottom and pushes back up to the top. With that match, did you know, with the first time you watched it, did you know that Eddie Guerrero won?
No, I was going to.
Did you think he was going to win?
I mean, it was on a DVD about Eddie Guerrero, so I may have had sort of inklings that it might have gone that way, but I had no idea. I had no idea going into it that Eddie was going to win that. It was just amazing, and that I took special care to watch the hype packages, which are always so good before each of the matches I watched and or have chosen, and. There was just one line in it that I just thought was so good and so Brock Lesnar, which is like, you're not facing your demons on Sunday, Eddie. You're facing me. And then it's just like this massive Hulk man just flexing and making fireworks come out of rings. And it's just incredibly compelling. It was just an incredibly compelling match, and the video package beforehand really highlighted that. It really went into his struggles and how he's beating those demons, and then he managed to beat Big Brock, the Vanilla Gorilla himself.
I've never heard him called the Vanilla Gorilla.
Have you not?
That's a new one on me.
Apparently that's something they called him backstage, the Vanilla Gorilla.
I'm a big fan of that. Fan of that.
It's good.
We've got one more match to get to. We'll get to that very, very soon. But for yourself and Peter, you stepped away from WhatCulture and you ended up doing stuff with the Yogscast people. How did you find being in a different office but with your boy Peter still?
It was weird and surreal. We were creatively unfulfilled at WhatCulture, but here we were completely let loose, to a fault, really. I think some managerial presence perhaps would have been sensible. Not because we ever did anything that outlandish, although we did make a video where I ran Peter over with my car. But just because we we had hands in WhatCulture in keeping, you know, a channel stocked. That's what Peter did for the gaming channel. He uploaded things and scheduled them and made sure things, you know, were going out. But we'd never run a business before, you know, and we didn't really get any help in that department from Yogscast. And this isn't to say that they did anything wrong. And this isn't to say that we're not extremely grateful and happy for our time there. But because we could do whatever we wanted, we sort of didn't really know what we should do. You know, we did what we felt was right. And we'd always wanted to work for the Yogscast anyway. And of course, you know, Michael Johnson was there with us as well. We can't forget Mikey, who was a huge part in bringing the vision of Vidiots to life, which was just this, I think someone described it as kids' Saturday morning TV show, except you're allowed to say, you know, rude words that I'm not going to repeat here. And it was kind of that. We just did whatever we wanted. We had this mad sort of set of shows that were all very strange and quite different. And it was about video games, but it was sort of not about video games at the same time. We just sort of did what we wanted. And it sadly came to an end, I think, before we were ready for it to come to an end. But, you know, you get put on these paths and you don't know where you're going to end. I wouldn't be here if it hadn't ended. And I think my life has ultimately worked out for the better because of it ending. But at the time, it was a very difficult pill to swallow because we felt we had more to give. We thought we were doing good stuff there. And we felt that perhaps with the right assistance, we could really grow it into something that would last, something that would be quite big.
So by the sound of it, it wasn't your decision to call time on
absolutely not.
Stuff with Yogs,
no, definitely not. We were a special case there at Yogscast because they're a network of channels ultimately, and they have core staff who are paid a wage. But usually people make their own money, and by being part of the network, they pay money back in. We were a special case in that we were brought in as an investment. And so, you know, when they didn't get an immediate return on that investment, it made business sense to terminate us and to terminate the investment, which, you know, it's perfectly, we understand the business logic behind it. We still felt that we could have done more and that more could have been done to make it a success. But, you know, there's no hard feelings on that front. It is business. It's business at the end of the day.
We haven't talked enough about Mikey, and I think we should before we move on in our tale. So Michael Johnson is the editor behind Vidiots, and we still hear him on the odd occasion. I believe he was on TripleJump just before Christmas as well, doing some bits with you guys as well. But what's the story behind how you guys got together with Mikey?
So Mikey Johnson was always this haywire sort of internet meme kid. And he was incredible at WhatCulture. He was hands down probably the best editor there. He was just so brilliantly strange, and we could tell that he was just this fountain of humor and comedic moments waiting to happen if he had the right platform. And when it came time to leave, we really wanted to bring him along, not just as an editor, but because his input would genuinely be very helpful to us to just make something unique and special. And when we ended up getting there, he designed all of our assets, and he really helped cultivate the look of what Vidiots became. We did end up splitting editing between all three of us, so we all did our fair share. But he was just, the way he transformed from just being behind the camera to being in front of it was, I think, and he faced a lot of unfair criticism as well, because a lot of people who followed us over there were just there for Peter and I. And when he started appearing in front of camera, exactly as we spoke about earlier, he was subject to a lot of vitriol, which was really, really harsh and really unfair. And I think he proved them all wrong, because he wasn't intended to be a presenter, but he ended up becoming one. And he ended up becoming such a core part of what Vidiots was that I don't think anyone who doubted him in the beginning can deny what he ended up doing for sort of our image and what we ended up outputting.
Obviously, we had Mikey was up in the Northeast recently. Are there plans to do even more stuff with Mikey going forward?
Yes. Absolutely. We still keep Vidiots alive in a sense, sort of as a side project. We were able to, Yogscast were very gracious and allowed us to just sort of continue doing it, as and when we can. And that's mainly in podcast form now. But we recently got to episode 50 of the podcast we do with Vidiots, called Podiots, and he was going to be flown up for episode 50, but then everything went to crap. So. We've decided to just, because we're the masters of our own fate, we just skipped episode 50 and we'll come back to it when we're ready. So when this is all over, yes, absolutely, he'll be back up here. We'll do more stuff on TripleJump. We want to get him back in the kitchen, doing episodes of Main Menu, cooking some video game recipes, and because he doesn't come back up. Obviously, all his family's up here. He doesn't come back up here very often, but we'd love to get him up here as soon as possible and record more stuff with him for sure.
So we look forward to seeing Mikey as part of the 50th episode. So you've just parked 50 and you're just carrying on the numbers, aren't you?
Yeah, why not? We might do the same with 69 as well, because I don't think we could ever do that justice. We'll just skip straight to 70.
So obviously we've talked about your time at Yogscast, your time at WhatCulture, but now you're now as part of Cultaholic now, as a part of TripleJump is now part of Cultaholic. But tell us about that conversation where you sort of found yourself booking once again tickets in the direction of Newcastle.
Well, the writing was on the wall for Vidiots. We could all sort of tell that it was going to be coming to an end, and this was about September time. Way before it ended up being canned. We could tell that the numbers weren't drastically improving, and reasonably we did all that we could, really, in the space of a year. We did everything that we could to make that a success, and in many metrics it was extremely successful. It just didn't do what the Yogscast needed it to do, but we could tell that things weren't going in the right direction. So when I went to EGX, it wasn't even for business. It was just for pleasure. And EGX is a video game convention. I think it's probably one of if not the largest in the UK. Takes place in various locations. It was in Birmingham at the time at the NEC, and I bumped into Adam Pacitti there. And I thought, that's strange. What's Adam Pacitti? I know Adam Pacitti plays games, but I don't think he would care enough to come to EGX. That seems bizarre. So we hung out for a bit and had a couple of beers, and then I'd heard a couple of times through the grapevine that Cultaholic were considering setting up a gaming channel, but I'd never heard anything concrete about it. And so I sent him a message sort of the following week just saying, really good to see you. Also, I heard you might be considering setting up a gaming channel. Is there any truth to this? And he just replied and said something like, we are. Are you free for a chat next week? I'm like, okay. So then we had a phone call, and he explained what he was looking at doing. And we say it a lot in the office anyway, but Adam Pacitti, world's best boss, right? He's come from an environment, as we all have, where management has not been great. And he has actively gone above and beyond to make sure that it is never like that, having experienced it firsthand. And so he basically, in pretty much these words, guaranteed us a job if we wanted it, if Vidiots fell through. So that safety net was extremely appreciated. And, at that point, it's not like we had a great deal of offers coming through, because we weren't advertising that we thought that it was going to come to an end, obviously, because that would be terrible business. But I trusted Adam, and he clearly trusted me, and I was open and honest with him and told him I don't know how much road this has left. And he said, well, you if you guys want to come up here, then you can. And so I spoke to Peter and Mikey about it. And Mikey, he's in his element in Bristol. He's a quirky vegan fella who loves the arts, and Bristol is just the perfect place for him to be. He loves what he does. And Yogscast also said that they'd be able to find positions for us if Vidiots did come to an end. Or at least they did say that once it had come to an end. They said, we can probably find positions for you internally to work with us. And Mikey ended up taking that job and staying there. But Peter and I took up Adam and moved back up to Newcastle and started up TripleJump as a result.
Wasn't called TripleJump first, though, was it?
No, that wasn't. It actually went through a couple of different name iterations. Coming up with a channel name's really hard, and coming up with a gaming channel name is especially hard. We came up with a quick save initially, which is something you can do on PC. You quick save. It's a bit sort of cheaty. However, that's also very similar to the name of a brand or a chain of budget supermarkets. So we decided against that ultimately, and we went with TripleJump. We thought, why not? Let's go with TripleJump. That sounds good. I then heard from a friend of mine, literally the day before it all kicked off, that just so you know, I've worked in he works in video production as well. I don't know why it's Tom Ransom. Tom Ransom, who I used to work with at WhatCulture and who now runs the very successful, all this successful alumni from WhatCulture. He now runs the MMA on Point channel. And he said, by the way, I've done some work with such and such and such and such, whose company is called TripleJump, something or other. And they are very protective of that IP, just so you know. And I was like, oh, man, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. The very next day, we get letters addressed to Adam, myself, and Peter with a cease and desist, basically. Which they were, again, there's absolutely no hard feelings here whatsoever. They were well within their rights to say, you're infringing on our copyright by using that name. And it was because, while I don't understand a huge amount about copyright law, if there was a plumbing services called TripleJump, a plumbing company called TripleJump, or a construction company called TripleJump, that would be fine because they compete in totally separate fields to this TripleJump who would come after us. But because they also work in video games, that is a broad enough spectrum, despite the fact that they provide professional video services and we were, sort of a media company across YouTube and Twitch and all that kind of stuff. Because the broad strokes were similar enough, they could ask us to change our names. And they did. And I was actually recording an episode of PlayStation Radio UK when I got that text from Adam saying, okay, we need to have a chat because there's a problem. And I said it to Simon, and he said, why don't you just call it TripleJump as a joke? And I replied and said, could we call it TripleJump? And Adam said, let me check. Yes, we can. And we ended up calling it TripleJump as a result of that, which was immediately sort of just a knee-jerk, well, we'll just call it TripleJump then. Wouldn't that be funny? Although now the algorithm does confuse us for the athletics competition, TripleJump, which, we're slowly claiming back. If you search TripleJump on YouTube in incognito, we're getting there. We're climbing up the rankings. TripleJump will be ours soon.
I think there's something wonderful about the fact that it was Simon who was there at the very beginning of your journey.
Yes.
Who was the one that helped name the channel. I think there's something really lovely about that.
Yeah, it was poetic.
Something that you miss from Bristol.
Snappy's tomato pizza.
Nice.
This is something that has become almost meme-worthy within our community because I won't shut up about it. It's a chain of pizza restaurants. I think they had a couple in Bristol. There's one in Birmingham and a couple in other locations. I have emailed them to ask if they would consider opening one in Newcastle, and I've never had a reply.
What?
The cowards have never replied to me. It was a square pizza, right? It came in a square box and it was a square pizza. And that blew my mind that you could maximize the square footage of pizza, the pizza to box ratio. There'd be no space wasted. Because with the circle, you've got so much pizza real estate that goes unclaimed. And it just felt like such a waste of space. And this was amazing because not only was it cheap, it was actually really good. It was surprisingly one of those rare takeaway places that you find that is affordable but doesn't do that crap kebab shop pizza you get everywhere. It was really special to me, and I ordered from it a lot, and I really miss it a lot, and I would have that back. And of course, Mikey, but the Snappies.
Let's focus on Snappies.
That's the one I want.
I get the feeling that pizza's your favourite food.
It's certainly up there. Yeah.
Because I base it on obviously we've had this nice discussion about square pizza. Your top pin tweet that always made me laugh, I need to find out where you got it from, is the massive pizza that was delivered to your house that time.
Yes.
And I seem to remember watching you playing. You were about to do a playthrough, and you said, we're going to play this for a couple of hours, then I'm going to go home and order pizza, and then I'm going to have a bad stomach.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've heard you mention pizza a couple of times. I got the vibe that pizza was your fave.
Pizza it's very important to me. It's the great equalizer, as I think Michael Scott says. It's just so easy, and it's so even. There is a saying that we actually disproved on Main Menu recently, but I think largely it holds true, and that there's no such thing as bad pizza, or any bad pizza is still good pizza. We ended up making a pizza on Main Menu that was absolutely horrific and so disgusting that that's just not true. But I do still believe that a hot pizza from anywhere is good. And you can't say that about chicken, and you can't say that about burgers, but you can say it about pizza.
It's hard. It's a hard one to get wrong, basically.
Yeah, it is.
With coming back to Newcastle, what was something you were looking forward to seeing or trying again?
I like it here. The people are nice. It's affordable. It's a beautiful city. You can get Greggs delivered to your house. It's just a really nice place. It was a place where I have a lot of memories up here, really positive memories of almost escaping, because I lived at home with my parents for a long time after university, and that was really hard. And I really tried to get away, and I couldn't. Not because my parents were keeping me there, just because I couldn't get work that would allow me to move away. And when I finally got work in London, where I worked in game development for 6 months, and then went up to WhatCulture, that was amazing. But I was in a shared house because London's expensive, and it was freedom, but it was limited freedom. But when I moved up to Newcastle, it was totally different. I had my own place for the first time ever. I could go and visit friends in town, and they would come over to mine. It was just sort of a real. It was where I feel like I grew the most as a person. Was there, not only because I got way more confident because of what I was doing for a living at that point, and my self-confidence grew. But it was I just really like Newcastle. I think it's just a really nice place, and I did miss it when I lived in Bristol.
Has self-confidence been a thing that you've struggled with?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I think everyone does, unless you're some kind of sociopath or you're lying. No, I think everyone does. I was a fat child, and I was a fat teenager and a fat adult for a long time. And I didn't want to do stuff on camera. I only wanted to do voice stuff. I didn't have the majestic facial hair that I have now. There was a lot of stuff where I just didn't feel. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to be. I felt stuck. There were several points where I just didn't want to be alive anymore. I think a lot of people go through that at various times in their lives. Some people worse than others. And I was fortunate in that it never got too bad. And I know a lot of people have really, really tough times. But self-confidence is something that I always struggled with. And it would affect me so much so that when I got opportunities to do voiceover or attend press events for game stuff, my knee-jerk reaction would be to say no, because I was scared of going, because I didn't feel like I should. And working in the field that I have done for the last 4-5 years or so has really helped me actually realize, you know what? Just go and do it. Just do it. Why the hell not? If you want to do it, go and do it. And so yeah, it really changed things. Working for WhatCulture really changed things for me in a big way.
When you talked about, you said you're a fat child, a fat adult, and obviously people see you now, that wouldn't even enter your head. Right. Was there a moment in your life where you went, do you know what, something needs to change now?
Yes, and I still have the photo saved on my phone to remind me.
Oh wow!
It was Christmas. In fact, actually, this is weirdly appropriate because I was looking at this the other day and I've still got it. This piece of paper that I keep in my desk. tracks my weight loss from, and this is just sort of an indication of when I actually started carrying my weight loss from January 2015. So it was Christmas 2014 was when we took a family photo and I saw it on Facebook and I was disgusted, and I had there's no motivator quite like self-loathing, and I saw myself and just thought, stop, something's got to change here. And as you said, so I started running and I cut out sugar, and I slowly lost weight over a couple of years. But it was when I went to London and I started feeding myself and I started going to the gym that really it started to kick up, and I lost a load of weight. And I maintained that for quite a while through WhatCulture as well, because I was going to the gym a lot. Went through some rough times in Bristol, which I've talked generally about. Peter did as well. It was a tough year for a variety of reasons. And as a result, I put on a fair bit of weight then into early 2019 as well. And I had a rough 2019 as well. But I reached a point in 2019 where I thought, I'm tired of feeling sorry for myself. If I pick myself back up and start eating healthily and start exercising properly again, I'm doing it for me, and that's something that I can focus on for me. So I've tried really hard, and I do like to eat a lot of pizza, but that's only one of the motivations for exercising for me now. Is that I get to eat pizza, but also I just get to feel a bit more happy wearing the clothes that I wear, and I can see myself on camera and not feel bad, which is what I did for a good portion of 2018.
How are you finding keeping that regimen up at the moment in lockdown?
Now I feel like, if anything, I'm in better shape than I was before I went into lockdown, because my running route is on the quayside, and I don't eat a great deal during the day anyway, just out of habit. And so I'm able to find that I can take myself out for a run in lieu of a lunch break and just go run along the quayside, come back, do my sort of limited free weights and core exercise routine, and just be done with it. And then the weekend is sort of treat time where I can drink alcohol and eat pizza and stuff. But working from home, I find it far easier to stick to it. I don't know if you're having a similar experience, because I know a lot of people are struggling working from home, but I find for me it's really helping me have a proper routine to include exercise.
It's getting there. Like with me personally, like finding the routine has taken a while. Like to the point where because I live with my good lady, and it's balancing that work life and home life, and not always being in work mode, and so to the point where my trick now is, so the Cultaholic stuff is in the spare room. It's now the office,
right?
And I've put office hours on the front door, on the door of the spare room. To the point where I go, right, to stop me going too overboard, these are my allotted hours, and if I can stick to them, great. And it just more than anything, it just helps me once I get to the end of a working day, rather than sort of staying in and going, I'll do a bit of that, I'll do a bit of that, I'll do a bit of that. It allows me to go, I'm now going to go into the next room, which is now switch off time. Or what I've started doing is I'll go for a long walk. I'll go for my walk of the day, my government sanctioned walk, as soon as I finish the shift for the day. So then therefore I leave for me it's the mental approach of, I'm going to physically leave the house at the end of the day, working day, and physically return to the house at the start of the home time now.
Yeah.
which has helped me immensely. I don't know if you're as regimented as that though.
I think that's a phenomenal way to do it though. I think you're absolutely, and may I just say, Tom, you've definitely lost weight.
Stop it.
Come on, no, you have. You look great.
Stop it. It's all on my belly. Just been drinking, liquefying cake.
When you dropped off that memory card to me the other week, because we don't live too far away from each other, you dropped it off to me. You put it down and you backed away, as we should.
Absolutely.
Because you needed me to upload it for you. I thought then, man, Tom's lost weight. So I think, I think it's definitely working, but you're absolutely bang on. I think there are little things you can do working from home. Making your bed, putting on people clothes, working in one room and relaxing in another, or as you said, that's a great way to do it. Just make going outside the end of your working day, and then when you come back, it feels different. Yeah,
it's all a mental game. we need to get to one more match on your wrestling DVD. It's what I like about these. It's tangent inducive. It's good. Before we get there, though, I'm going to also allow you to take, as well as this wrestling DVD, you're allowed to take a movie, an album, and a luxury item.
Okay.
So, your movie, what movie would you take with you, Ben?
I'm taking Hot Rod with me. I don't know if you're familiar with Hot Rod.
Why Hot Rod?
I love Hot Rod. Hot Rod, I think, is one of my favourite films. It is by no means the best film, but I find it endlessly... I'm a huge Lonely Island fan, and I love Andy Samberg and, I think what's his name, Kiva Tacombe and... Jorma Tacombe and Akiva Schaffer, I believe is what they call it. I probably got that all wrong. But I think they're fantastic, and they were a big part of my teenage years, is watching their albums and their skits and their music videos and stuff. I just thought they were so good. And they put this film together, so two of them were in it, one of them directed it. It was originally intended for Will Ferrell, but Will Ferrell didn't end up taking part. I think he just produced in the end. And so it starred Andy Samberg. It's just about this small town idiot who wants to be a stuntman, who thinks his dad was best mates with Evel Knievel or something. And it's just him and his stupid friends doing progressively more and more stupid. It's got a great cast. I think it's really quotable. It's really funny. Every scene has something stupid happen in it. And I have the soundtrack, and I love the soundtrack. I've listened to it so many times, and it's just this brilliant glam rock 80s metal soundtrack. It's just a phenomenal. I just love that film. It always makes me happy whenever I watch it.
How about an album?
Jack Johnson's In Between Dreams.
Oh, beautiful!
I love Jack Johnson.
Beautiful album. Was that was just before you did the Curious George soundtrack, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
When did you discover Jack Johnson?
Through this album. That was when he had real success in the UK with a couple of hits, Better Together and I think maybe Banana Pancakes, or it maybe just In Between Dreams, actually, the title album, title song. But I got the album and I loved it. He's just a relaxed Hawaiian guy. All of his music sounds exactly the same, but I love it. And I have all his albums, and I saw him live at the O2 in London when he toured a while ago, and I just think he's brilliant. He's not for everyone, because as I said, his music does all sound the same, but I just find it I think it's just really lovely music, and that album in particular is just particularly beautiful, I think.
And a luxury item?
I alluded to it earlier on, but it's got to be a Game Boy Color and a copy of Pokemon Blue.
Oh,
if that counts as one luxury item. I don't know how strict the rules are.
No, it's fine. We can plug the game into the Game Boy. That counts as one item.
I can never take it out, though. Otherwise, the world ends.
Plus, you get sand in it.
Yeah, well, that's true. Don't want that.
So you don't want to risk that, really, do you? So that makes sense. But you can't take your batteries. So good luck.
Oh, for God, Tom, come on! You've got to give me something.
We will hide. Okay, in true video game style, we will hide 4 batteries around the island. Okay,
joke's on you, because I only need 2 for a Game Boy Color, so that's fine.
Oh well, that's half the battle already done then. Before we get to, in fact, no, we'll do this now. We'll do your final wrestling match, and we'll talk a bit more about sort of going forward with TripleJump. But your final wrestling match, sir, what are you choosing for your DVD? So just to recap, we had the 8-man tag from No Way Out 98. We have had Brock Lesnar versus Eddie Guerrero from No Way Out 2004. So 2 No Way Out matches.
Yeah,
are we going for a trifecta of February pay-per-view based action?
We're not. We are going for the match that I heard about online, and I thought, you know what? I can watch this if I want. I'm at that point in my life where if I wanted to watch this, I could. And I did. And it's from that point on that I watched every Monday Night Raw and SmackDown for about 3 or 4 years. And it's The Rock versus John Cena from WrestleMania 28. I watched it last night. Not a great match. I understand that. But for me, as I said at the start, it represents for me the turning point where as an adult I realized I can just watch this now. I don't need Sky. There are ways I can watch this. That's what kickstarted my love. And I didn't watch... The idea of The Rock versus John Cena was enough to get me to tune in. But the rest of that card I also thought was really good. You had Triple H against The Undertaker with Shawn Michaels in I think it was Hell in a Cell, I believe, at WrestleMania 28. where they all sort of help each other limp up the
that's it, and they all walk up the top.
The end. Yeah, that was a powerful moment. And then, of course, I got to see CM Punk for the first time, and I thought, this guy is amazing. I like this guy. And you know, somebody called Brodus Clay's mama, and we all got that big dance move, didn't we? That was something special. But it was from that point on, after that I tuned in on Monday. And I think Lesnar returned the following night as well. And I think that is really what cemented it for me. Like, oh my God, if Bork Lasers returned, then I've clearly just got to watch this now, haven't I? While the match itself isn't going to go down in the history books as, you know, anything special beyond lying about being once in a lifetime, I think it's important to me because I watched religiously after that and got so engrossed in wrestling. I backed way off. There's too much wrestling. I didn't have enough time. And I ended up just sticking to NXT and now watching the pay-per-views, the big pay-per-views for the main roster. But it was The Rock versus John Cena that got me into wrestling properly. That got me to start watching wrestling properly.
Can you remember who you were behind in that match?
I think it was probably The Rock. I think it was probably The Rock. You know, I knew all about John Cena, obviously. And at that point, my naive mind wasn't sort of a member of the IWC or a smart mark or whatever. So I had no reason to hate John Cena. I then, of course, developed a reason to hate John Cena because he was kicks out at 2. 5 moves of doom, am I right, guys? Which, of course, when you look back on it now, you're like, actually, John Cena was really good. And yeah, he should have lost some matches. But anyway, at the time, I had no reason to hate either of them. But I knew The Rock, and he was a big movie star, and it was cool to see him wrestling. So probably The Rock.
It's a tough one because obviously what we do is for wrestling fans. So you know, the following statement may be misconstrued, but I find that sometimes like too much wrestling fans can take away from wrestling itself. You know, you focus too much on sort of like you say, like you watch that match with a wonderful non-IWC based lens on it, and you enjoy. And I imagine that as soon as you watched it, as you say there, it was something like, oh no, you this is why John Cena's bad, and this and this and this and this and this. But I think with fandoms in general, there is you can enjoy something on a base level and still enjoy it, and if you go too deep, sometimes you can find yourself to use some wrestling parlance, working yourself into a shoot, and falling out of love with it altogether. Is it very similar in the gaming community?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to give a quick example similar to it, I had the same thing with Game of Thrones, which I think we can all agree didn't end great. But certainly the last 2 seasons, I was watching it in a bubble. I wasn't part of an online community or discussion. And at one point, I liked a Facebook page that posted Game of Thrones memes. And immediately I started seeing all these negative reactions to things and thinking, oh, they're right, actually, that was stupid. And then I thought, no, close this. Unlike this page, because you're actually really enjoying it before people started telling you what was stupid about it. Exactly the same thing happens with games. That's why I think it's so important to go into games that you're interested in completely blind. Of course, at the time of recording this week, The Last of Us Part 2, a very highly anticipated video game that's going to have, going to be all about the story and the characters, has suffered a massive leak from supposedly a former disgruntled employee. And that's such a shame because, especially with games, I mean, when you get online trolls, there's sadly a very good chance that they like video games, and there's sort of a disproportionate amount of trolls in the video game appreciating community online. And so spoilers get posted everywhere. People get in ridiculous arguments about which console is better. There's a lot of, hatred for no good reason, really. If you're able to follow along with news, but still just avoid comments or separate yourself from social media or certain aspects of social media, then you can still go into games blind and really enjoy them. But if like us, if it's your job, you sort of have to get in there and wade around amongst negative opinions sometimes. You just have to be able to report objectively on them or on the reaction to certain things happening. And it does affect your opinion on games sometimes, but if you can separate yourself, I do encourage that you do that because it's the best way to enjoy what you enjoy.
We're nearly out of time with yourself, Ben. It's been really lovely to chat to you. What's nice is I want to give a quick personal story before we go deeper into it. I was a fan of yours from the WhatCulture days, where before I even could fathom that we would end up sort of working together. I was always a fan of your work, and
Thank you.
As you've mentioned earlier, we live near each other. And there was an occasion where I nipped to the shops and I saw you walking to work. And I remember going, "Hi, Ben," and bless you, you said hi back. You didn't know me from Adam. But I remember coming back and saying to Alex, "I've just seen Ben from WhatCulture. That's cool. Seems like a nice man." And then you left. And then you came back up to Newcastle, and you end up living roughly in the same area again. And I'd been to watch WrestleMania in Leeds, and I got back into Newcastle about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'd had lots of drinks, so I stank a bit. But it was as I was walking back near where I live, you were walking to work. And I remember this felt like a real clever thing to do. As you walked past, I went, "Welcome back." And you kind of went, "Thank you," thinking, who is this weird man that smells of beer that has welcomed me back, and from where? So it's nice to be able to sit with you and actually tell you that story now, as opposed to, as I did walking away, going, that was a really weird thing to do. I don't know why I did that.
I mean, I want to reassure you, I couldn't smell anything.
Thank you, mate.
My reaction was not based on smell at all. I was just really thrown. I was like, should I know who you are? Should I? Have we met before? Because it was a very strange thing to have said to you, apropos of nothing. I was so shocked by it. And I still remember when I came in to work for the first time into the office and you were there. And I was like, "Oh my God, it's you. That's who you are.
Stop following me."
No, it wasn't that at all. It was like, okay, so surely the reason you've said hello is because clearly our fields of interest cross over. There's a Venn diagram there where we coexist, and that makes sense why you've said hello to me before. And I think I said to you at the time, "Oh, I remember you. You said hello to me the other day." I was like, "I'm so sorry. I was so confused by it."
Yeah, and as I said, you shouldn't, because how are you to expect to know who I was? Even at the time, I went, "Why did I do that? That's just a weird thing to do to a stranger." But it's ace that we get to chat now, and it's ace to see TripleJump going from strength to strength to strength. What would you like to see happen with TripleJump in the next 12 months, and then maybe further on to the next 5 years? What would you love to see happen?
I would like to pass 100,000 subscribers, ideally. Video gaming on YouTube is such a competitive field, and you really have to carve out your own niche, because you're up against IGN, you're up against established gaming outlets, you're up against Let's Players with, who get millions of views just watching them play the latest game that comes out. How on earth can you hope to compete with that? How on earth can you even begin to step to people who have a platform like that? So growing our really dedicated, wonderful core audience to 100,000 is a milestone that I would really love to hit, just for me personally. Not even necessarily for the channel's benefit, just I would like to see that. I would like that, to grow it to that size. And we're on track to do it, hopefully before the end of the year. We'll see. But I think I would like to see the presenting pool grow. I'd like to see it in the long term become somewhat similar to Cultaholic, because while we have the grandest of plans, we don't have the man or woman power as it currently stands. And as we grow, we're going to be in a position where we can afford to bring more people in. We're currently hiring a full-time video editor, which is going to free up more time for Peter and I to focus on other things and hopefully get more content made and make more money and bring more staff in. But I'd love it to reach the point where it becomes a case of Peter and I not having to present everything. Because I love that, and I love that the channel's built around us. It's wonderful, and it's really flattering that Adam trusts us to even do that and have that be the case. But at some point, I would love it to reach the point where we've got someone who does this show and someone who does this show, much like Cultaholic does. And that would be the long-term goal for me. It's just growing it so that it's sustainable. And should there be a point where either Peter or I decide it's time to walk away from it and do something else, that it can continue without us. That's what I want. I want it to be able to exist without us having to be there. Not that we have any plans of going anywhere, but I would like, that's the long-term goal, I think.
I'm glad that you put that out there. Not that we're planning on going anywhere.
No, we're not going anywhere, but if we were to go somewhere, a channel that would be able to continue without us, I think would be the greatest success that we could hope for with TripleJump.
Where can people find you online, sir?
I am on Twitter at confused_dude, and I'm on Instagram at benpotter20. I do TripleJump. It's a video game channel. You can just search TripleJump or youtube.com/Team TripleJump. We stream a lot at the moment now that we're at home. Twitch.tv/Team TripleJump. As you've said, I do a podcast in my spare time from time to time called PlayStation Radio UK. We also do Podiots on the side as well, sort of a silly comedy podcast if you're into that sort of thing. And I'm just doing a bit of everything, really. Just doing what I can, staying busy, doing voiceover. You want some voiceover? Let me know. I do things. Whatever. I hustle.
I'm good for voiceovers, but when all this blows over, I may need my cat being fed.
That's fine.
That's
Pablo
something
doing?
You've done before as well, bless you. But
yeah, how's Pablo doing? Is Pablo okay?
He's all right, actually. I think he's sick to death of us living here all the time.
He just wants his classic FM, doesn't he?
He does love his classic FM, and he's not getting enough of it at the moment. He's just getting us two talking at him all the time. Tried to put a bow tie on him yesterday, and he wasn't having it. I know. I feel like
how
bad.
Undignified.
I know. But get Ben for voiceovers and stuff. Is it confused_dude?
Yes, on Twitter, yeah.
Why confused dude?
It sounded nice.
Fair enough.
It just phonetically, it sounded nice in my head. I made it when I was probably 13 or 14, before the PS3 came out, because you could pre-register your online ID, and I needed something. And confused dude just sounded nice in my head, and I just sort of stuck with it ever since.
Remain a confused dude, Ben Potter. Remain a confused dude.